Welcome to the Little Miss Movies podcast, where two movie-obsessed parents make their 10-year-old watch movies she'd never watch otherwise. This is episode number 3, The Films of Wes Anderson.
Hello everybody, welcome back to the Little Miss Movies podcast. I'm Gable, and I'm in 5th grade, and I like to write and read and play video games.
And I hope you like to watch movies, too.
Yes, I do.
Okay. My name's Christina Rice. I am Gable's mom. I am also a librarian and the author of movie biographies, including Mean, Moody, Magnificent, Jane Russell, and the Marketing of a Hollywood Legend, due out in June from University Press of Kentucky.
And I am Josh. I am Gable's dad. And I'm a comic book writer. I'm a TV writer. I'm a TV writer.
You're a TV writer, primarily.
I'm a comic book writer, TV writer. I write music. I watch a lot of movies and play video games and torture my kid by making her watch movies that she doesn't really want to watch sometimes. But as with what we're going to talk about tonight, sometimes I think making her watch those movies is pretty good for her.
I think a lot of the time it is.
Unless it's Alien.
She'll just never get over Alien. She just can't help
She's never
herself.
going to forgive you.
Never.
She'll be in therapy 20 years from now talking about having to watch Alien.
You made me watch Alien.
You're mean.
I thought everybody would survive.
You're mean.
More people survive the second one.
I don't care.
3 people survive.
That's literally 2 more people.
That's more people.
But also, Gable, after having watched Alien, you get that joke in Spaceballs, and that's what's really important.
That's the only thing that matters that came out of watching Alien, seriously.
That's not the only thing, but it's something.
So, what we're doing this week is was actually not the plan. We had gone a few weeks back. We started. I think we mentioned this maybe on an earlier episode, but we started going to the
Hollywood Legion.
Thank you, Hollywood Legion. The Hollywood American Legion, which is called the Hollywood Legion if you're searching online, drive-in that they've been doing, which is fantastic. Like, we really, really enjoy it. We have been going a lot, and we started just buying tickets for the movies we wanted to see, and sort of like, we're just gonna make Gable come with. It'll be fine. And so we bought tickets to one of my favorite movies of all time, which is the Royal Tenenbaums. And we sort of figured, like, she'll just watch it and maybe she'll think it's okay. And actually, that is not what happened. She actually really responded to it. You really liked it, right?
Yeah, I did.
What about it? What did you really like?
I don't really know. I think I liked how it was structured.
Mm-hmm.
And I liked the characters most of the time. Except for Royal Tenenbaum.
Yeah.
Because he was a jerk.
That's kind of a jerk?
Yeah.
So you can relate, is what you're saying?
No.
No. Good. This is really all this is. It's about my ego as a parent.
Good answer, honey. Good
It comes
answer.
down to. You can, like, I know I edit this at the end, but I guess you could put it in where I just don't listen and you can say exactly how you feel. Yeah, I wonder, because I know it's funny to say, but like, a topic of conversation is constantly, I think, as every family goes through, is you wish you had siblings.
Yes.
Does the movie make you wish you had siblings, or does it make you comfortable not having siblings?
I wish I had a sibling.
Still.
Yes.
I
wish I had a sister who was my age.
Yeah.
Or older.
Well, that's going to be hard. I mean, you know.
Biologically,
Yeah.
I don't think that's possible.
Yeah.
I don't care. I just don't want a sister.
But so you liked Royal Tenenbaums so much, and we were sort of talking about the director, who's Wes Anderson, who's made a bunch of fantastic movies. And as we were talking about them, Christina and I were talking about it, and we sort of realized, like, oh, if we're going to show her a Wes Anderson movie, we should probably show her, like, the one that has kids in it, which is Rushmore. And so, did we show you Rushmore? Yeah, we did show you Rushmore first, right? Second. That's what I mean, like, after. So we showed her Rushmore, and she really liked Rushmore. And then we were like, let's really push our luck here. Let's see, how far can we stretch?
And didn't show her the other one with kids, which is Moonrise Kingdom.
Yeah, because why would we? I mean, that would just make sense. And instead we did the Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou, hoping that her obsession with Jaws would get her through the movie. So, do you want to talk about your
You were
response to
correct about that.
See? Yeah.
I also really liked in Life Aquatic. I liked all the sea creatures and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I liked how, like, I shouldn't say stuff, but like all the sea creatures and underwater, all that stuff. I'm sorry, I keep on saying stuff, but you probably want me to be more specific. But I liked how it was all neon-y and how it looked really cool, and it looked nothing like what actual sea life looks like. So I liked how it was supposed to be something like that's real to us, but it was just really different. But to the people in the movie, it was just regular and everything. So I like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the things that
It's like an alternate dimension.
Well, that's one of the things I like about that movie is that you have a main character who's sort of like done, right? Like,
Yeah.
like Steve has been doing this for so long that he just is not impressed with anything. You know, like nothing actually gets a response out of him.
Except for the one thing that he's looking for the entire movie.
Right. And so that's the thing is everything else he sees, like we're looking at it and being like, wow, that's amazing. And wow, that's cool. How neat is that? And he literally does not care.
He's just like, oh, I've seen this all the time. I want the one thing that I'm looking for.
And the one thing he's looking for, he wants to kill.
Yeah, and that's sad.
That is sad. So like having watched all three of those movies, which are, you know, his second, third, and fourth movie in a row.
Really?
Yeah. So
Oh, really? Oh, we didn't even do that on purpose.
I did.
Oh, did you?
Well, yeah, I figured, you know, we're going to do them.
I just pushed for the Life Aquatic because I hadn't seen it for a while. I really wanted to see it again.
So his first movie is a movie called Bottle Rocket. And if you watch it, we didn't show it to you, but if you watched it, it's very rough. It's good. You can tell that he has a lot of talent, but you don't actually get to see a lot of his voice that we see in his later movies, right? You really just sort of see exactly what you need to see and what they could afford to shoot.
Yeah.
And then in Rushmore, you start to get like a little more style into the movie, right? You start seeing some of those flourishes.
Yeah.
And then
but it's not like as
pronounced, right?
Yeah, as Tenenbaums.
And then Tenenbaums, which is very stylish, very stylized.
Like everything, like whenever the character is like the main focus, they're right in center. But then the second that they kind of like they don't realize like what they're doing, or like they're kind of not the one who's supposed to be, who's like they're not the one who's important. Like the second that happens, then they go off and they're not in the middle anymore.
Yeah, I mean he uses
middle of the frame.
Yeah, we talked about the idea that like that movie uses where people stand and how shots are framed to help
have it go along.
Yeah, to like help not just for the like visual poetry, right? But actually because it helps tell the story. Because every time you see a character who's centered, you feel like they're centered. You feel like they have grounding, right? And every time you see them not centered, you understand that there's something off. And it does it, like you said, it does it really well.
Yeah.
So he takes all the stylish stuff that's in Tenenbaums, and then you get to Life Aquatic, and that movie is nuts, right?
Yeah.
It is so stylish and so weird, and makes sort of no explanation of why it's so crazy. You know, like Tenenbaums really like stretches to sort of explain, well, they're geniuses, and because of that, they're eccentric, and you know, their dad was an absentee father, so therefore all those things. But like, Life Aquatic is like unapologetically stylish and weird.
But it's awesome. It's weird in a good way.
So, what that is, it's a very controversial thing, especially, which I say especially as a writer, is it contributes. There's this thing. Get ready, called the auteur theory.
Yeah.
Okay, and the auteur theory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds weird.
So the auteur theory is that in movies, the director is the author of the movie. That the director's voice is the voice that matters. Everybody else serves at their feet. So Wes Anderson is considered an auteur. And he also writes his movies, so he has a little, you know, he probably has like a little more say.
Yeah.
You know, he is a little more responsible.
Yeah.
but it's a thing that people sort of they argue against, because if you look at Tenenbaums, he didn't make every single minute choice, right? He had an art department who was helping with those choices. He had costumes and he had props and he had everybody set deck. Everybody was doing work and helping to make all those decisions to make the movie, as one, to get the thing that's there. So the question becomes, when you get to a movie like The Life Aquatic that nobody else could make that movie. Like, I can't even fathom a version of that movie by any other director whatsoever. But does that make him, do you think that fits the idea that he's an auteur?
No, I don't think so.
Why not?
Because, like you said, there's all these people, and like they also had a say in it. Like, it's not, they did not dare to do whatever he didn't want. It's like he was like, okay, you guys are in charge of this, just like, and he didn't say like make them look specifically like this or else I'm gonna fire you, whatever. Probably not, at least.
Yeah, but when you watch those three movies and think about them, though, like, do they have a lot? Can you tell that they're directed by the same person?
For Life Aquatic and Tenenbaums, yes, but for Rushmore, no.
Really? Oh, interesting.
I think both Tenenbaums and Life Aquatic, they have all the crazy like filming techniques and all that stuff, and like all the style, all that stuff. Rushmore has that, but I think it has it like less than both of them, so it seems different, like a different director.
You think it seems like a different director?
Or like no, like maybe like I think maybe it seems like a different director, but then Wes Anderson like may have helped out or something in it.
Or it's influenced by.
Yeah.
Well, that's part of the thing, is what you're actually seeing is, one of the like wonderful things about art, which is that he was influenced by thousands of movies that he saw over the course of his life, by other directors, by paintings, by books, by all these things that inspired him, right? And what you actually get to watch that's sort of nice, and why I love sort of tracking a director that way, is that you get to watch him grow up. Like, you get to watch what he does and what his voice looks like form itself. Because I think in Rushmore, there's sections of it that look like they could be from the other two movies. You could pull, anytime there's like the montages of him doing activities, you could pick those up and drop them into either other movie.
Like those, yeah.
Right. Anytime they have any of the calligraphy stuff, or the like when they have the plays, there's always stuff that you can find that sort of fits into the other movies. At the same time, you could totally make Rushmore without that stuff, and it would still be a great movie. Like, you could still make that movie without him. Whereas you get the Tenenbaums, and Tenenbaums is all that stuff. Like, the characters exist sort of solely because of how he tells story. If that makes sense, Did you see, like, in terms of the characters, even, like, what did you see in terms of the characters between the movies? Like, did you feel the connections between them?
Yeah, I think they all had like some sort of problem. Like in their characters throughout the course of the movie, every single character that was like a main character had like a problem. 'Cause like in Rushmore, the kid, like he has to deal with his new school, and 'cause he got kicked out of Rushmore 'cause he was doing too many extracurriculars and all that stuff. And Tenenbaums, the three kids, they all think that their dad is dying. And so they have to deal with that, and they're like, oh no, he's just pretending. And they have to deal with all that, and they all have their own problems. And then in Steve Zissou, Life Aquatic, why did I say that in the wrong order? Steve had a problem because he wanted to get revenge. And that was just his problem, is that he wanted to kill something really pretty.
Yeah, and the other thing, like,
and he also had the problem with Ned.
Yeah. Well, no, that's the thing, is the movies, he does a really nice job of creating sort of secondary problems. So there's always like a practical thing going on, right? So the like,
Yeah.
to use Tenenbaums, like the practical problem is Royal, is that Royal is like invading their lives and
Yeah.
creating trouble for everybody. But that is like exterior. That's like on top of all the problems everyone is dealing with themselves personally, which is kind of what, like, what's funny is his movies are very particular and very, weird, but they're actually with life. They're very lifelike in that way, that like everybody is dealing with, for example, right now, like we're all struggling to deal with, the pandemic. But within dealing with the pandemic, we're also trying to deal with paying our bills and how do we get groceries and how do we do, all these very specific things that are very, very specific to our situation. When we had to have a conversation about, if we have a stay-at-home order in LA now where you're, by their word, not supposed to go anywhere, does that mean you can ride your bike outside? Because you're not supposed to ride bikes. But does that mean a bike as
does transportation versus recreation? And I think also just dealing with being with each other 24/7.
And doing, like, for me, like doing homework and all that stuff on time, and then everything else with the pandemic. And making sure that my computer is charged.
That is a recurrent problem.
Yes,
very
it is.
Specific to you, it turns out.
Yes, it is.
Very specific.
Yes, it is.
So if you looked at these movies and had to like explain to other kids your age, first of all, which one would you recommend they watch?
I would recommend probably Rushmore or Tenenbaums.
Mm-hmm.
Probably Rushmore because it's kids.
Yeah. Although ironically, Rushmore has way more dirty language and sexual themes. It's like a lot of it, which is weird because you're sitting there watching it with your kid and you're like, oh yeah, there's all this stuff that I just sort of pass by as an adult and don't think about.
Then Tenenbaums.
And Tenenbaums for being much more complicated, and there's a suicide in the movie, attempted suicide in the movie.
Attempted.
And there's there's drugs and there's all those things, but actually the movie is very, like, almost like by accident, the movie's very precious with its characters and gentle with its characters, even in their worst moments.
Yeah.
Which I think is a really sort of beautiful way that he tells stories. Yeah. So I have a theory about Rushmore and Royal Tenenbaums, which I have not told either of you before. I think that Max from Rushmore grows up to be Royal from Royal Tenenbaums.
That kind of makes sense.
That does kind of make sense.
Because
Max is very self-involved.
What other reasons do you think that could be that?
I think you have all this. I mean, I think it's all there that he's self-obsessed. He likes to create his own mythology for himself, right? He likes to shape the world into a way that isn't actually there. He has the world wired. It's just not wired correctly, if that makes sense. Other people are shrapnel around him. Like, he doesn't care about he doesn't see his actions and the consequences that they have, which is what Rushmore is about ultimately.
Yeah, it is.
But the question is like, does that thing that happened to him as a teenager, does it actually change him? So I think even if they're not literally the same guy,
like the same actor.
No, it's definitely not the same actor.
Definitely not.
Even if they're not exactly the same character, like literally, I think they're certainly an archetype, and it's an archetype that he always does. You know about archetypes? We've talked about that.
Archetypes?
Yeah. Now we're getting heavy.
What's an archetype?
An archetype is sort of like a easy to understand shorthand for a character. So he's an archetype, and that both of them are archetypes, and that they're like smart but selfish and socially weird, socially awkward.
Yeah.
And like when you hear that, you're like, oh, you see Max in your head. You sort of understand, like, oh, I know who that kid is. I can totally see who he is.
Yeah.
But sort of even beyond that, like they clearly are something that he doesn't. I mean, I'm like thinking if there's any movie that he doesn't do it in, out of like all of his movies, and it's every one of his movies. I think, right?
Yeah, I think so.
You know, so when you see that, like when you see that stuff sort of coming up over and over, what do you take from that?
Well, no.
Like, do you read it? I guess the question becomes, and this is because you've been around your mom and I and seen us writing and doing work, but like, do you think it's a coincidence that they're the same, or do you think that that's his way of sort of like working through issues, or what? Like, how do you take it?
I think that's his way of doing it. Like that's his way of working through issues. Like not through issues, but I think that's kind of, maybe it's like one of those things where like he has to add this in. Like for me, like if I'm writing something like a story or whatever, then I have to add in Harry Potter somewhere. So like book or something.
You're gonna
somewhere.
get sued one of these days.
I don't care.
She's gonna come after you.
No, because it's
like
just
school stories.
Yeah, it's just incidental.
Mm-hmm.
There's a
That's
Harry
like
Potter
school.
book.
Yeah.
In your stories.
It's like that. So it's like maybe that's kind of a thing for him. Is like he has to have that in his. He has to have
Bill Murray.
Has to have Bill Murray.
He has to have like that kind of thing in it. Like in his movies.
Yeah.
It could be that like his mind just automatically does that. He doesn't really notice it or something, but I think that he just has to have it in somewhere.
Just like how Josh, you would put "ga" in every.
I do. Well,
in every comment.
What's a ga?
Just kidding.
I just do it on purpose. It's a sound effect.
I think I started doing it too.
I used to try and put the sentence "the war was the biggest bitch of them all" into everything I wrote, but it got considerably harder to do.
Did you really?
I did.
I never noticed that.
Yeah.
I never
Like
noticed.
my first few books it's in, and it never makes sense. It's always just like a completely weird aside that somebody says or in the middle of something else.
Never
Why?
noticed that. I'd like to talk, Gable, about two aspects of Wes Anderson movies that I really love, and one of them you kind of already touched on, and it's just his visuals, because his visuals are so fantastic. And you pointed out how like Life Aquatic, there's a lot of like the claymation, and how
But, like it didn't look like claymation.
They do try to just incorporate it like seamlessly, like it again. Like
I don't think it looked like claymation.
no, like it just kind of seamlessly happens. But even like in Royal Tenenbaums, which does take place in New York, it's still a version of his New York. So like the gypsy cabs, like those aren't in
thought that took place in San Francisco.
No, when they're walking around Central Park.
Oh,
like
sorry.
when they're on
Yeah.
when they're on rooftops and you
I
can see
forgot
Central
that.
Park in the
I
background.
forgot that. Other than that, I thought it was San Francisco.
No, so it's New York. But there's like the cabs, like those don't actually exist, and the big green bus, and it's all just so incredibly visual and so memorable. And even like the 375th Street Y, like I don't even know if there is a 375th Street. There certainly isn't. I don't think there's a Y. So I think that he's creating his own world, like within the actual world, which I think is absolutely fascinating. And I just think his just use of color and design is so striking, and then his use of music. I think I don't know if there are many directors around right now that use music as effectively as he does. There are certain songs that when I hear them, I just instantly think of these Wes Anderson movies, and so I think like visually the movies seem to grab you. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah.
Would you like to elaborate on that?
Like I like for Tenenbaums, I like all the centering and all that stuff. For Rushmore, I like all the text boxes at the beginning.
Yeah.
I like all that. And for Life Aquatic, I like all the claymation.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't look like claymation, and it's like neon and really bright. It looks super cool.
And just, you know, especially I think like in Tenenbaums, there's like the real subtle things. Like everybody seems to have written a book in that movie. And then at various points, they show people reading each other's books, which is kind of nice.
Yeah.
And then you pointed out, like, I think it's the scene where they confront Royal about lying about his illness. And when Richie's talking, because they're in Richie's old room is where his hospital bed's set up.
Yeah.
And then on the wall behind him is a drawing Richie has done of Richie as a kid with Royal
sitting in a golden throne with a golden tennis trophy.
A tennis trophy, which you pointed out, which, you know, I think is
and right below it is a picture of Royal shooting Chaz in the hand.
Is there really? Oh, I didn't notice
Really?
that.
Yes.
And so there's just these just wonderful, just kind of subtle visual cues throughout his films that I think are just, you know, so fantastic and just blow me away, because I don't know. And how, you know, Josh, do you know, like, how much of that is him versus, like, you know, his set designers, like, and how in sync are they?
So the art, like literally the person who physically draws that art is his brother.
Oh, so very much in sync.
Yeah, so I mean, he has access to the script, and I'm sure they talk through that stuff. He also does, if you look at all the criterions of his movies, he does all the Criterion box art and all that stuff. You know, I have a friend who was an assistant for him for a while, and I think like he is involved. Like he's super involved in everything, and he, you know, his fingers go into things. But, you know, I think if you look, you'll see. I think we're even watching. I can't remember if we were watching like a making of documentary or something. But the cinematographer that he used in, I think from Rushmore on, is the same person. And he hires the same cinematographer because that cinematographer understands what he wants. And I think there comes a point as a director and as a creative that you share the language with the people you work with to the point where there is sort of a symbiotic relationship. And even like doing what I like in my comics career, you know, there's artists that I worked with for 15 years, you know, who like I barely have to write. I just have to convey essentially what I'm looking for, and we know each other so well it comes out.
Yeah, and I got to that point too with when I did the My Little Pony comics, one of the artists, it got to the point where I got kind of lazy with the writing. Like I did the story, but in terms of describing like what was going on and what was in the background, we were so in sync that I knew I could just trust her, and she. So that takes us back to, you know, that questioning of the auteur theory is, you know, there are all these people who are helping, but if they understand his language and they're all in sync together, then
it's not, though. It's still not, because
so you think it's all a contribution.
They may be in sync with him, but that does not mean that it's all him. It's a bunch of people who know what he wants, and they know that they know exactly what he wants, and they don't need to really ask him for what they need to do in the background. So that does not mean that it's one person. It means there's like a whole crew of people who just know, like, oh, I know he's gonna want this. Oh, I know he's gonna want that.
I mean, it's also, you know, even looking at it from my day job, right? So looking at it from the showrunner standpoint on a TV show, like being a showrunner is miserable. Like it is nothing but micro decisions. You're just making stupid, tiny decisions all day long. And you know, those things are things that you just like have to do. It's not fun. It's certainly not fun doing that stuff. But at the same time, I worked for a guy who, you know, he had an art department who they just needed direction. Like they were so fearful of being punished that they didn't want to make decisions. And so because of that, they needed literally everything spelled out because they didn't want to get yelled at. They just did. It's all like their primary goal was not to do a good job. It was to not get yelled at and get fired.
So is he an auteur?
Yeah. But, you know, so it came to a point where, you know, there was a problem because we had to pick like a car that a character was going to drive. And so the director of the episode and I called him and said, hey, so art department won't choose a car. What car? And he was like, just pick a car. Who cares? And I was like, I don't know. They think you care. And so he said, well, just pick a car. I don't care. And I was like, okay, it's a, you know, Buick Skylark. And he was like, oh, for God's sake, what is wrong with you? Of course it's not a Buick Skylark. How can it be a Buick Skylark? You even think this through? And you're like, so what kind of car can it be? And you come back to that thing. So like, there are people who are tyrants who, and not even if they're not unpleasant about it, they just want it to be entirely their own thing. I think like my impression is that number one, those people don't tend to work with the same people over and over and over. And that when they do it, the product tends to not be as good. But then you have William Friedkin, who's a crazy person. Like there's that great documentary we watched on, it's on Shudder right now about the making of The Exorcist. And that guy's a psycho. Like he's telling stories from his side. And you're like, well, that guy's a crazy person. Like, perhaps, and that's the like good version.
Perhaps he did not direct Exorcist. Instead, he worked on Psycho because he said that he's a psycho.
It's possible he would have insight.
He worked on Psycho.
I would like to. I find it interesting because Gable, just as a personality, you're not an egotistical person. You are a very team-oriented person, and I think you like it when people get credit for a job well done.
What is egotistical?
Egotistical, that you're not full of yourself?
No, I'm not.
You're not. So
I like working alone, but does that mean that I'm egotistical?
No,
I just like working alone.
You like working alone?
Yes,
but I
do.
think you want people to get credit, though. Like you wouldn't.
I want people to get credit.
You wouldn't take credit for somebody else's work.
No. Like, I want people to get credit, but I also want to work alone.
Well, you've been doing Minecraft with your friend, though. You enjoy that.
Yeah, that's because we think alike. Because we worked on
lots
of short
but
stories.
When you were showing, you do work on short stories with her. But you're quick to point out like what she did and what you did and what you worked on together. So I just find it interesting that you, in talking about these movies, that your take on it is no. These are a lot of people that are collaborating and working, and you want them to get credit, which I think is interesting. But I think also comes just kind of from your character as a person.
It's actually like something like that happened in school where we were doing a group project, and one of the kids like just didn't really do anything. So when we were practicing, the kid who's introducing everybody, like the kid was in a group because we all had like a slide for our slideshow or whatever, and so one kid, so she like left this person's name out, and everybody was just like, why'd you leave their name out? Like, they were on this project and they helped, like they did the backgrounds and the photos and all that stuff, and like, well, they didn't do anything. So like stuff like that actually happened at school.
And that does bother you.
Yes, it does.
So, which is why she is not for the auteur theory.
We'll see, like as we go, like depending on how fancy we get, like we'll show you more movies that are like even the Hitchcock movie. Like Hitchcock is considered an auteur, even though he didn't write his own scripts ever. All of his movies were written by other writers. Orson Welles is considered an auteur, even though he barely wrote. I think he wrote F for Fake, and he wrote what was the one that was just discovered? Oh my god!
It's not Chimes at Midnight.
No, the one the Netflix one.
You're definitely cutting this out.
Yeah.
No, I'm okay. I'm okay being stupid for a second.
Are you? Oh, we watched that thing. I'm blanking out. I'm totally blanking out.
If only I had a computer right next to me.
We do have a computer right next to you.
You're looking it up? But also, I think one of the things I like about Wes Anderson's movies and his style, and he, as we pointed out, he uses a lot of the same actors, and so it does remind me a little bit of like the old, like the golden age of Hollywood. So like the movies that I like to watch with you, like the black and white movies from like the 1930s. From the different studios, and I think it almost, his kind of house, almost has like a house style that harkens back to the movie studios, which is, I think, something I find really pleasing with his films, and also just that they are so character driven and so dialogue driven, which is very reminiscent of 1930s movies as well.
Can I just add in another visual thing that I noticed, which in in Rushmore, the teacher's friend. I think his name was Peter or something.
Mm-hmm. Surgeon.
Yeah, he looks like Richie Tenenbaum.
He doesn't just look like him, Gable.
He is.
He is.
him.
Yeah,
Yes.
that is the same
Same
actor.
Really?
Did
Yes.
you? Yes.
No,
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Luke Wilson.
It
Yeah.
like flew over the audience, and I was like, "Wait, what? The
Yeah.
guy there
Yeah.
looks like somebody from another movie."
Yeah. Well, we point out, and Owen Wilson, who is his brother, who's Ned in Life Aquatic, and what's the character's name in Tenenbaums? Eli. So he like co-writes and co-produces the films, and he's the brother of Luke
Yeah.
Wilson. So yeah, that's why they show up quite a bit. And then I think Josh pointed out that in Rushmore, Owen Wilson, he's the teacher's deceased husband, and you see him in a photograph. So
Yeah,
in
Daddy
a
did
manner of
point that
speaking,
out.
he is there.
Daddy did point him out.
The Orson Welles movie is The Other Side of the Wind.
Oh my gosh, yes.
The Orson Welles movie I was talking about was Transformers the movie.
What?
Orson Welles is in Transformers the movie, Gable. Does that make you want to watch the animated Transformers the movie?
No, thanks.
No, it doesn't make me want to watch it either.
Who does he play?
He plays, not Galvatron, what's his name? Unicron, who is a planet. There's a story,
What?
possibly anachronistic, that so he was doing it. He died very soon afterwards, I think. And so he was
He
recording.
played a planet.
It's a planet-sized robot that transforms from a planet
my
into a
God.
robot.
Oh my god, that's weird.
And so he was recording, and he didn't have air, and his voice was failing. And when he was recording, he was talking like this. They couldn't get. And the engineer said, "Mr. Wells, I'm sorry, I need you to speak up." And Orson said, "Son, when you're the size of a planet, you don't need to speak up." Which again might be anachronistic, but damn, it's a good story.
I like to
I'm a
think
fan.
it's true.
We got back to just go back to Orson all the
Always
time.
go back to Orson.
So
Always.
talking of Orson, I think right after we're done recording, we, I think as a family, are gonna go watch Mank on Netflix that just came out.
Mank?
It's called Mank. What does
I
that
am
make
excited.
you? Does that make you sound excited? Does that sound exciting? when
It's
you hear
called Mank?
it? Named after
Make?
Mankiewicz, who's the writer of Citizen
Citizen
Kane.
Kane.
So this is a debated but theoretical story of how Citizen Kane got made.
Or how it was
Cool.
written.
There's like a whole genre of movies
Yes.
about Orson Welles coming to Hollywood.
And making Citizen Kane.
Yeah.
And we'll watch them all, Gable. I don't know if I can sit through all of them again.
No, not all of them. Let's just watch the one. For
Sounds
right
right.
now.
No, Arcade281's pretty good. as I
Just for
remember.
now,
Yeah.
let's just watch the
I think it
one.
was. Okay.
For now, okay? For now.
For now.
For
Um,
now.
Was there anything else we watched this past week that is not for a future episode?
Double Indemnity.
Double Indemnity?
Oh, we haven't. I can't remember if we've talked about it. We haven't talked about it.
No.
I don't think
We
we
saw
have.
it after we recorded the last episode.
And so we saw Double Indemnity at the Hollywood Legion Drive-In. So Tenenbaums and Double Indemnity came up for sale at the same time, and I wanted to see Double Indemnity, and Dad wanted to see Tenenbaums. So we just went and saw them both because we're not doing much of anything else.
So if you're in Hollywood, then go to the Hollywood Legion Drive-In if it's showing a movie that you think you want to see.
Yeah, absolutely. So what did you think of Double Indemnity?
It's alright. It was alright.
It was all right.
It wasn't my kind of movie.
Why was
Well, it's a weird sound.
why was it not
Jeez.
your kind of movie?
I just didn't like all of the double crossing and stuff.
Yeah,
which was the whole movie.
was double crossing. I believe after the movie was
that's
over.
why it's called Double Indemnity.
Yeah. I believe you said you didn't like all the murder and double crossing. And I posted that on Twitter, and somebody responded, if you take out the murder and double crossing, I think you just have a movie about grocery shopping and term life insurance. Was there anything about it that you liked?
Not really.
Not like the costumes or the
No?
sets.
The house? How about the
House.
house?
The house.
The house was
the
pretty
only thing.
great. You seem to really enjoy how Fred McMurray always called her baby.
That was just weird. No,
Babe.
I didn't like it. It was just weird.
You thought I'd fall for that, wouldn't you, baby?
Baby.
It's just so weird.
Yeah. I mean, did you, well, I guess you understood what was going on because you knew that there was all the double crossing. I mean, the performances.
I did not like that the one girl character was the evil person,
The
basically.
villain that Barbara Stanwyck was.
Yeah. How she was all nice and she was like, she was like all nice, and at the somewhat end of the movie, she was like, I've been evil this whole time, but now I'm not.
And then he shoots her.
That is verbatim. That is the end of the movie. She just spoiled it for you.
Yeah, spoilers if you haven't seen Double Indemnity.
Spoilers.
So, okay, just it wasn't your cup of tea.
No.
Okay. But I will point out the Hollywood Legion gives everybody in the car popcorn and candy. So I think that
I enjoyed that part.
And so yeah, I think the M&Ms probably got you through the first 10 minutes of Double Indemnity.
They made it through the first 10 minutes, a new record for me.
Was it?
They're usually gone by like 15 minutes before the movie starts.
So, I think that's everything. Do you want to give...
And we also have the
What?
freshman.
Oh, that's right.
Oh, the
Oh,
freshman.
I totally forgot.
We went to the Hollywood Legion.
Yet again.
Again.
Really, very predictable.
Yeah. Yeah, they showed Harold Lloyd's, the freshman, and there was actually a piano player in the parking lot playing along. What did you think? What did you think of the freshman?
It's all right.
That's all
I like the piano accompaniment, and I was blown away when you told me that they made it up, like as they were, like they were.
Yeah, I
playing
don't think
along.
he didn't look like he had music in front of him.
And I like playing piano. I'm a pianist, and I was like, I could never do that. How would I be able to just do that for an hour and a half?
Yeah.
Just doing like random melodies that kind of like you had to make them up along the way. It's just
That worked.
That was a line of work. Like, that was a business you could be in.
oh really?
Yeah, they had, because when silent movies were big, that's what you did. Like, they would have, I think the big fancy theaters would have orchestras for, premieres and things.
Premieres.
But until they figured out, how to easily get sync sound with records, because before they had talking sync sound, they had these giant, like, record plates that would essentially get started at the same time that would play back music, but were so expensive and so big, it was actually still cheaper to have piano players, so they didn't catch on.
Yeah.
I actually you knew a guy who had done that when he was really young. His name was Bob Mitchell, and so when he was really young, he accompanied silent films. And later on in his life, when he was like in his 90s, he would still. There used to be a silent movie theater that would show films, and anytime he was going to be accompanying a movie, particularly if it was a movie set during historical time period, he would actually call up the history department at Central Library where I work. And so he would call up, this is Bob Mitchell, and I just wanted to get some, information about, like Arabian times in this era. And he just wanted to have a little bit of background knowledge of the era to help inspire whatever music he was going to make up.
Yeah.
So, but that's
cool.
what, he was so good at it. Did you enjoy, other than the piano, did you enjoy it? Like, what did you think of Harold Lloyd?
It was funny.
Yeah.
Well, this is your second Harold Lloyd movie.
Yeah, I don't know if you remember. We actually probably his most famous movie is a movie called Safety Last, where he's hanging off of a clock in downtown Los Angeles, and we showed it to you.
That.
Yeah, I think you were probably like three or 4 years old, and you didn't want to watch it, and we put it on, and you were mesmerized by it. So we'll probably need to revisit it.
He Spider-Man's a building. Like, he just starts climbing a building.
Yeah,
and it's real. Like, it's not a trick. He climbs a building.
He's fantastic. He was an acrobat of sorts. Just like when we watched last year, we saw The General at the Vista Theater, and Buster Keaton, who was just very physical. And so you just in the silent era had these very physical comedians. So would you be interested in maybe watching some more Harold Lloyd movies?
Maybe.
Or Buster Keaton.
Maybe.
Or Charlie Chaplin?
Maybe.
No Charlie Chaplin?
I'm good. Show her Limelight. Like Limelight.
Oh, I love
Great
City
Dictator.
Lights. Oh, I love
Yeah, they're
City
fine.
Lights.
They're no Limelight or Great Dictator. And Limelight comes with bonus Buster Keaton. They do a routine together. It's a twosome.
You know what else comes with bonus Buster Keaton, Gable, is Sunset Boulevard, which
It
is
does.
definitely on our to-do list. Why are you looking at me like that?
It's so good.
It's so good.
It is so good.
It's so good.
So next time, I think the plan is...
We're doing Christmas movies?
Well, so we're close to Christmas, which is the thing. We have 2 weeks until Christmas? I think so, right?
My Fitbit's dead, so I can't check.
Yeah, I think we have more than that.
I'll check quickly.
Because we're at the beginning, from when we're talking right now, we have 3 weeks till Christmas.
Okay. So, well, next week we have...
Exactly 3 weeks, actually.
Christina has been planning this very meticulously. This has been her plan all along.
Is it my life plan to make Gable watch 1930s Warner Brothers movies choreographed by Busby Berkeley?
Yes.
So yeah, I think next time we're gonna go back to the 30s, and we had briefly discussed Footlight Parade at one point, and that was something we were going through the Joan Blondell movies that were on Criterion, which are sadly gone now, and so I figured we would do. You really liked Footlight Parade.
I liked all the crazy dance numbers.
You liked the crazy dance numbers.
Like they built a waterfall on set.
Yeah, on
Seriously.
stage. So we thought we would watch a couple more of the 1930s Warner Brothers musicals with those Busby Berkeley numbers in them.
Okay.
And so I think we're going to be doing that next. Should I say the movies?
Yeah.
Should I give the sneak peek? So
Sure.
we are going to discuss Footlight Parade some more. And we are doing Gold Diggers of 33, which is kind of wacky and a lot of fun. And I love Aileen McMahon in that. And then we're going to do 42nd Street. And so we'll be discussing those next time and talking a little bit about the Hollywood studio system.
I would really recommend that you search Google for Jerry Orbach 42nd Street commercial because it is outstanding. It is the weirdest. Like I will never understand till the day I die why anybody was like, you know what'll get people to the theater? This horrifying commercial with Jerry Orbach.
Honestly,
I think that is there are certain areas of opinion in our marriage where we differ, and I think Jerry Orbach's one of them. I really like Jerry Orbach, and you are not.
I want to find that commercial.
You are not as much a fan as I am.
Find that commercial.
We'll include a link in the show notes, and you can decide for yourself.
What is it?
And then we'll do probably the week after that. We'll try and do Christmas movies.
Then we'll do Christmas. Yeah, then we'll do Christmas movies.
Josh,
we're still not going to do Black Christmas.
Yeah, I have mine in mind. My weird one that she definitely hasn't seen.
Okay.
I mean, it's the greatest Christmas movie ever made.
We already showed her It's a Wonderful Life.
No. Nope.
Can we do?
I'm not gonna say it. I think everybody knows the greatest Christmas movie of all time. And you're thinking about it, and you don't know. But
Well,
it is.
no, because It's a Wonderful Life.
No. Not even close.
Can we do Nightmare Before Christmas for it?
You want to talk about Nightmare Before Christmas? That's a movie you've seen so many times. We can probably do the greatest hits, I think, of Christmas, along with whatever weird thing Josh is currently thinking about. But I honestly
Daddy, you have to tell us once we start recording.
have no idea what that might be. But before we get to Christmas, we're doing Warner Brothers, which...
And then my favorite, Christmas movies.
Are those your favorite?
Yes.
Huh. Learn something new about you every day.
I like Christmas stuff.
Well, I did know that about you.
I like playing Christmas music and all that stuff.
That's true. You have been playing Christmas music on the piano for
I
the last
started
2
playing
months.
Jingle Bells before Halloween.
Oh, don't I know it.
Yeah, really do.
Okay, baby.
Okay, baby. Thank you guys for listening. We will be back hopefully a week from whenever you're listening. No, that doesn't work because you could be listening
A week
to this
from
at any
right
time.
now.
A week from when
Monday.
it first showed up.
We'll hopefully be back next Monday. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
The Little Miss Movies podcast is hosted by Christina Rice, Gable Fialkov, and me, Josh Fialkov. We're recorded, mixed, and produced at North Hollywood, California. Series art by Gabo. Episode art by Gable Fialkov. Theme song by Gibby and the V's. All contents copyright 2020 Valoria Shines Inc. Visit us online for more at littlemissmovies.com.